This is the Boston Celtics newsfeed on CLNS. Today is Friday, June 30th, 2017. This is KYRIE Prescott reporting for CLNS, the leading online provider of audio-visual coverage for the Boston Celtics. The beginning of NBA free agency is officially underway in less than 24 hours, and despite July 4th weekend being a time for barbecues and beers for most people, Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens, and the rest of the Celtics management will look to wine and dine with some of the top NBA free agents this offseason. Stevens and Gordon Hayward, who is the apple of the Celtics' eye at the moment, obviously go back a ways, back to more than 10 years ago. In fact, when Stevens, an assistant at Butler, began recruiting Hayward, who was then a skinny junior in high school. The Boston Globe's Adam Himmelsbach outlines the relationship between Hayward and Stevens in a piece today, the past, present, and future. While the connection between Stevens and Hayward is described in the piece as being typical of a player-coach relationship, it wasn't as if Hayward was a number one recruit out of high school when he arrived at Butler in 2008. It was Stevens who told Hayward early on in his collegiate career that he could become an NBA player. In essence, Stevens always possessed the belief in Hayward, a belief that Hayward oftentimes didn't quite have of himself. A former Butler assistant in the article believes that Hayward may be too loyal of a person to part ways with a Jazz team coming off of a 51-win season, a campaign that included the franchise's first playoff series win since 2009-2010, said the former coach. Quote, "Obviously I think the relationship matters, but also he has kind of set his mark in Utah as well, having great relationships there. One thing I found about Gordon is he's a loyal guy." End quote. One of the underlying factors in Hayward's potential return to Utah this summer was also, according to reports, heavily influenced on the Jazz's ability to retain another one of its free agents. That may or may not have took a hit today. According to previous reports from the Deseret News in Utah, Hayward's return to the Jazz would be influenced on whether the Jazz decided to bring back veteran point guard George Hill into the mix. That won't happen, as the Jazz, according to the Vertical, have traded for another starting point guard who happens to be under contract, in Minnesota's Ricky Rubio. In exchange for Rubio, the Jazz will surrender a 2018 first-round pick, the selection they garnered in the Enes Kanter trade with Oklahoma City. Despite there being not a lot of openings with teams, in addition to a point guard-driven league, the 30-year-old Hill was expected to command around $20 million this offseason, a sum the Jazz didn't want to venture into with the oft-injured Hill. It's unknown whether the Rubio acquisition actually hurts Utah's chances of bringing back Hayward. The Deseret News' Jody Genesee, who also reported that his sources had told him that Hayward's decision to return to Utah could hinge on Hill being brought back, tweeted that there is a growing sense of optimism that the acquisition of Rubio actually aids Utah's Hayward chances. Rubio will fit into the Jazz's cap space, a move that allows the Jazz to be players in free agency should they choose so. In other Celtics-related news, the team's plan B in free agency, Blake Griffin, is reportedly having a difficult time nailing down a meeting with the Celtics. The Celtics are focusing primarily on Hayward, along with a potential trade for Indiana's Paul George. Griffin is said to prefer exploring his options early in the free agency process, a process that may run counterintuitive to the Celtics' plans. The Celtics have also extended Kelly Olynyk a qualifying offer for $4.3 million, an offer the Celtics can rescind to create cap space, as well as a deal the Celtics have no doubt Olynyk will decline. The restricted free agent is expected to receive plenty of interest in dollars and years and would represent a fallback option for the Celtics should other players become unavailable. For the youngsters on the team next season, as well as those looking to make a mark in the NBA, Celtics Summer League begins July 3rd in Utah, where the team will square off with number one pick Markelle Fultz and the Philadelphia 76ers. Tip-off begins at 7 p.m. on CSNNE. We're all about fresh content here on the Celtics newsfeed, and so are our new friends over at HelloFresh. HelloFresh is the meal kit delivery service that makes cooking more fun so you can focus on the whole experience, not just the final plate. Each week, HelloFresh creates new delicious recipes with step-by-step instructions on how to prepare these super fresh ingredients. Now, loyal listeners of CLNS Media can get this very special offer. Because of your support to Celtics newsfeed, you can use the promo code BEAT30 for $30 off your first week at HelloFresh. Continue supporting fresh content and fresh food by trying HelloFresh for free. Simply visit HelloFresh.com and enter the promo code BEAT30. To stay up to speed on the 17-time world champions, follow CLNS on Twitter at CLNS Media. Be sure to subscribe to the Celtics newsfeed both on iTunes and Stitcher, as well as the CLNS mobile podcast app. This has been KYRIE Prescott for Celtics Newsfeed.